And we'll have more conversation in a moment. I want to move on. I want to pick up on what Steve has said because so much of that is relevant. I'm going to do something slightly different. I don't come from the development side of the house. I come from the network side of the house. I teach at the Interactive Telecommunications program at NYU, and Erica, Christopher, and I are working on a class there which is designed to work out communications patterns, basically places where there is some leverage in the field that hasn't been taken advantage of yet. So I'm not really going to use this as a screen. I'm going to use it as the whiteboard I don't have. And what I want to do is walk you through 5 operations that I've found valuable when you're thinking about existing communications patterns, wherever it is, to ask yourself, if I'm doing X, can I do X plus Y as well? So here's the basic unit, right? And I draw these intentionally as people rather than as databases. Access to information, I want to follow up on what Steve was saying. Access to information is such an abstraction, right? It sounds like, okay, well, there's this recipe for the thing, the anti-diarrheal formula, and we pass that along, right? There are those kinds of examples. But mainly what people use communications tools for is communicating. Right, and this has always turned out to astonish people, right? When the mobile phone companies moved into data services, they said, oh, it's going to be sports scores and the weather and all of this other stuff. And it turns out, no, in fact, the phone is really good for talking to other people. And when you add data services, that's what they do as well. SMS caught them by surprise, even though they're communications companies. Very often, the information we want access to isn't information about something, some piece of abstraction up there. It's very personal, very social, very situated information, right? Imagine 2 people, Sebla and Tedessa, who are, for some reason, uprooted. They end up in different environments, you know, possibly a refugee environment. You can imagine all kinds of situations that would cause people to scatter. What they want to know isn't what's happened to my village or, you know, how can I get fed where I am. What they want to know is, Sebla wants to know where's Tedessa, and Tedessa wants to know where's Sebla, right? That the amount of lateral information that moves across these environments, which doesn't look like database stuff to us, but to people in that situation matters enormously. The other thing is that communications among groups of people builds up social capital, which is a kind of invisible glue that lets people get things done. And so if you take 2 groups of people, one of which doesn't really communicate except around really important matters, and the other of which communicates around really important matters and also gossips, right? In a crisis, the second group will function better because they'll know each other better and they'll trust each other better. That social capital turns out to be a byproduct of seemingly non-essential communications. So back to this, right? I've drawn this as people, although obviously there's a lot of what we're talking about is an interaction between people and machines. So we can essentially bring it down to nodes and links, right? This is the gram. What I've got up here is the absolute basic unit of communication. A message passes from point A to point B, right? So once you've got that, because if you don't have that, you're not communicating at all. Once you've got that, what else can you do? One thing you can do, oh, sorry. This is supposed to turn around, but somehow this isn't loading. One thing you can do is you can see if you can make it a conversation, right? Instead of just thinking about getting information to go one way, can you make it a feedback loop, right? The tutoring conversation we saw on the screen in Steve's example is a perfect example of that, right? We're adding the full round trip. You're looking at information coming in. What can I give back to the person giving me that information, right? It's just make any arrow you would draw one way, 2 ways. Second, can you broadcast it? Yeah. Somehow the slides are not loading, and I am sorry about that. Maybe I will draw. I'm tempted to draw on this screen, but I won't do that. Yeah, no, I got it. I'll do it. No, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, it's right. I'll just use the whiteboard I do have.